Welcome back to Nextgen Digital once again. Today I'll be in conversation with Carl Pullein once again. Carl is one of the pioneers in the productivity space and has 3 decades of time management and productivity study and has helped over 500,000 of people. So this time, Carl and I decided to take a deep dive on the Todoist app and understand his workflow setup, how he manages the various different tasks across various different projects, and also to talk about his COD system, the collect, organize, do methodology, what he uses. So without any further delay, let's get straight into our conversation. Welcome back, Carl. It's nice to have you back here on Nextgen Digital. And last time when we talked, which was about a month back, and we talked about productivity, and that video was really very well taken by the entire audience. So, welcome back and thanks joining.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me back on.
So, this time we are going to talk a little bit more in depth and more in detail. I know very well that you are or you have been associated with Todoist app for quite some time, and you have been coaching and mentoring a lot of folks, maybe thousands of them in the last few years on Todoist. So I just wanted to connect with you before we get into the details of Todoist. What do you think about Todoist? How does it help you? And why has it been so successful in the past few years now?
Well, I probably need to take you back a little bit further than my Todoist years. I came from OmniFocus. Now, OmniFocus is a fantastic app. I mean, it's powerful, it's incredibly reliable. But the only problem I had for me personally with OmniFocus is there were way too many features. And in particular, OmniFocus has this unique thing called perspectives, which is you can set up your very own pages, if you like, or screens, if you like. And the thing is, you're always fiddling, you're always trying to find that perfect perspective. And I could never quite do it. So what I found myself doing was I was continuously playing and fiddling. And I realized that this is not very good productivity because it's not doing the work. It's fiddling around with the app. And Todoist was on my radar. This is probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. And it was a beautiful app, but it was incredibly simple. But it did have some kind of unique features like what they call filters. And I thought, oh, filters are not quite the same as perspectives. Like it's not as complicated. And so I had to play with it. I kind of fell in love with the design ethic. I think the design of Todoist is brilliant. And so I think it was probably 5 years ago now, I switched completely over to Todoist. And I've never looked back, and I can't imagine I always look at other apps. I mean, it's one of my hobbies, if you like. I'm curious about what's going on in the productivity world, but me personally, nothing comes close to Todoist. It's just a beautiful app. It's solid, it's fast, and I like the fact that I can access it on any device, whether I'm using an iPhone, I could go to a Windows computer and I can go online and get to my Todoist that way. Yeah, I can access it from pretty much anywhere I am. And so I would never, you should never say never, but right now I have absolutely no plans at all to go away from Todoist because it's solid, it's dependable, and I understand it. I know how to use it.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the insight over here. So while we are talking about Todoist, and I have been following your various different videos on Todoist and other methodologies, one thing which really caught my attention, like almost since the last 1 year, is your COD system, collect, organize, do. That's a very interesting concept or methodology which you have introduced. And I know you came up with some of the videos where you are collaborating or like you are integrating your COD methodology with Todoist also. But before we get into all that, why don't you talk a little bit about COD? What is it? What does it do for you? Or what does it do for all your users and the team members, what you have been training them?
Well, the way that it works is, I think a few years ago, I was looking at all the various productivity systems out there. I mean, I read all sorts of articles. I looked at how the most productive people are doing their work. And what I analyzed was it boiled down to just doing three things. And those three things were collecting anything that gets your attention. So anything that needs doing, an event that needs to attend, an appointment, you need to collect them somewhere. And when you've collected them, you need to have some time in the day to organize what you collected. So organizing your events need to go to the events, your calendar. Your to-dos need to go to your Todoist, your task list manager. And ideas and notes and things like that need to go to your notes app. But you don't want to be spending too much time there. Because if you spend too much time in organizing, you're not doing. So the doing part should be about 90% of your day. And that's usually the target. I actually personally try and target 95% of my day that I'm doing. 5% of my day I'm organizing, which works out at round about 20 to 30 minutes a day. And collecting is just something you do. It's just something that you as you go through the day. But if you break any productivity system down, those three elements are always there. And for me, that's what I really isolated and then built on that. So that's like the foundation to any productivity system. You need to be collecting, and you need a good, easy system to be able to collect. And you need time each day to organize what you collected. So it needs to go in its various places like events, calendar, tasks to do, your task manager, and your notes going to your notes app. And the rest of the time you need doing. And if you get those three things right, you're good. You're good to go. You're getting organized.
So that comes up with a very interesting clarification. So, Carl, when you are following this COT system within your Todoist, I'm assuming you're also using the time blocking system on your calendar also. So some of your items or tasks which you have collected, let's say in an inbox, you are making those as your or allocating them or assigning them to certain projects, but you're also doing a time blocking system and blocking your calendars also. Is that correct?
Yeah, but my calendar is blocked. It's pretty much the same blocks every week. So Monday morning, I start with, I actually have an online English class that I teach, but then at 9:30 until 11 a.m., I'm writing. And that writing block, and all it is in my calendar, it says writing time. Doesn't say anything else, doesn't tell me what I'm going to write.
Okay. Yeah.
Todoist tells me what I'm going to write, but my calendar has reserved 90 minutes Monday morning to write my blog post, which is essentially what I do. The same I have on Tuesday morning. I have an early morning class, which I have to actually go out to. But when I get back home, I've got 9:30 to 11:30, and I write my podcast script. And that block, that writing, because it's writing a script, so the writing block is in my calendar. And then Thursday afternoon, I've got a block for recording videos, and Friday morning, also recording video. And Friday afternoon, I've got a block for editing. So what I describe as my core work each week, I've got blocks in my calendar for, because if they're not there, it won't happen. And that's my core work. It's the work that earns my income. It's the work that's really important to my clients, to my customers. If I don't do that, I let my customers down, and I let my wife down because there's no income. So the core work is blocked in my calendar. Come what may, it has to happen. But that doesn't mean to say that my calendar is micromanaged because it isn't.
Yeah.
When I looked at my calendar yesterday, I think the only two blocked items, those three blocked items in my calendar, four if you include the English class. So there was an English class, a 90-minute writing block, a 1 hour exercise session, and a 1 hour client call last night. But in the rest of that time yesterday, there was nothing else. So I had a lot of time just to work from my to-do list and just get my tasks done for the day. So it's not micromanaging. What it is when I talk about time blocking, it's blocking that core vital work that needs to happen. Because if you don't block the time for it, other things, louder, but probably less important things, but for some reason they're always louder, will get your attention and they'll steal that time. And I won't let that happen. I block that time in my calendar. It's the same with exercise. You know, it's not all work. It's like exercise time. It's blocked because if it's not, it doesn't happen.
So I think without any further delay, how about we get into your Todoist system or Todoist app, and let's see how do you manage your task, or while using COD system, or just do a setup kind of thing. That will be really helpful for our audience.
What I've done is I've said this is actually my demonstration account, so it's not actually my real account, because obviously there's a lot of personal stuff in there as well.
Sure.
What I'm going to do is take you to my my dashboard here. So this is what I've got. This would be a typical day, and this is what it would start. My starter day would look like. Now, I'm using a Todoist filter. I mentioned one of the things about Todoist is their filter. Let me just zoom in on this. So there you go. So I'm using a dashboard. And what this does is every single day I see this, these are what I describe as non-completable tasks. So essentially, if I go in to edit that, we're going to edit that, you'll see that in there, I put an asterisk. So those of you using Todoist, if you put an asterisk and then a space, you make it a non-completable task, which means there's no checkbox.
Sure.
And this stays up at the top. So these are my focus for this week, which would be like, my focus is to exercise 6 times this week. And I need to complete a couple of webinars that need to be done. So those are kind of my focus for the week. They're not tasks, they're just to remind me this is where I need to be focused this week. So this is where I usually start, which is my dashboard. But let's just go into, if you look at this, by the way, my dashboard shows you all the tasks that I have for today. So this is everything. So in terms of today, I've got 20 tasks. But if I start the day looking at those 20 tasks, it looks overwhelming. I mean, I'm scrolling down and going, oh, this is going to be a long day. So again, I use a filter. The first thing I want to do is I want to see what are my objectives for today. So what are my, if you like, MITs, my most important tasks. So in this example, I've got take my dog to the vet for his checkup and to exercise. So I've decided last night when I was doing my planning that these were my objectives for today. So I start there. I want to start my day with a reminder of the 2 things that I want to get completed today. From there, I will then shift to here. So this is where I spend most of my day, which is what I call my today's focus. And what you'll see is there are only 10 tasks. I would never have any more than 10 tasks in my focus for the day. It's a manageable number. It also allows me to manage any unknown inputs that's going to come in through the day, because it always happens. You're going to get an email that requires urgent attention. You might get a phone call. You know, anything could happen. So if you overload your day, you'll only end up having to reschedule a lot of tasks. So you need to keep plenty of kind of space in your day to manage those unknowns that will come. So these are the kind of tasks that I've got. Now, I did mention before that you shouldn't use a task manager like Todoist or Remember the Milk or OmniFocus or To Do or Things 3. You shouldn't, they are not what we call project managers. Project manager software is incredibly expensive and multifaceted, and probably have Gantt charts built in. I think the closest consumer one that I know of is Monday.com. I would describe Monday.com as being very, very close to a project manager. But these are task managers. Things like Todoist are task managers. It's what they do well. They manage your tasks. So I don't manage my tasks by project. I manage my tasks by when I'm going to do them. It's what I call the time sector system.
Mm-hmm.
So the most important folder that I have is this here, my this week folder. So these are the tasks that I've got to do this week, and I have what I call my recurring areas of focus. Now, these are really important things. They're, as I mentioned before, like my core work, if you like, or they are my core values. Like calling my mother is like it's a thing I must do. It's like family. So these are the things that I would do every single day or every single week. So in this case, they're all showing up for today. In my normal account, it's not every day, but I would say 3 or 4 of these will come up every day. And I've got 17 in total in my real account that come up throughout the week. So I know there's 17 tasks before I start the week that I have to do. So what I've got here is 5 more, but on a Monday in my real account, I would probably have about 15 more. So in total in my this week, you see here for this example, it's got 11. But in my real account on a Monday morning, it probably has about 30, which is my manageable number. If it goes above 30, I'm going to struggle to do all my tasks that week. So I look at my tasks as needing to be done in a specific week, not necessarily on a specific day. Because, you know, if you try and do everything in one day, you're just going to be exhausted and you're not going to get it all done to a good enough quality. So I tend to think in terms of what do I want to get accomplished this week?
Great.
So let's just say, for example, I can't trying to get my dog into the vet. Let's say my vet is really busy and I'm just going, okay, he can't do it this week, so I can do it next week. What I would do first is I would remove the date because now it's going to be next week, and I would drop it into next week's folder. Because now I don't need to worry about it this week, and I do my weekly planning session on a Sunday. And when I do my weekly planning session, I just go into here. I will highlight all these tasks like this, and then move. It says move to project. I would just move it to this week. So bang, and now they're into this week. And then I would add the dates. I got watered the plants this week.
So
this is a demo account.
Carl, I have a quick question, or maybe a clarification for our viewers. I saw you had some recurring tasks, right? Recurring area of focus. And then I also see on the left side, you have routines. Would you mind talking about
Yes.
what is the difference between recurring tasks and routines?
Well, a recurring area of focus is part of my core work. It's my core. It's what I would describe as being incredibly important to me. So it's related to my work and related to my personal life and related to things that I have decided are important to me. Now, everyone is going to be different. So, you know, just copying mine, like putting exercise into your recurring areas of focus, if that's not a priority in your life, it's just something you think you should do, it's not going to work. That would be a routine. But to me, exercise is part of who I am. I mean, I do it. It's like number one on my calendar. My calendar has its recurring events, but the next thing I put on there is my exercise schedule. It's like really important to me. But if I take you into my routines would be things like, you know, cleaning up today's admin, updating my sales report. These are not necessarily core work. They don't bring income in. They don't improve my relationships. They're not going to, if I was an employee, it's not going to help me to get promoted. It just doesn't. They're just things that have to be done, but they don't take your life further forward. Like taking the dog for a walk is great because actually it gets me out of the house, but it also is good for the dog. But it's not the end of the world if I can't do it. For example, my dog really does not like the rain. So if it's raining, he ain't going. You know, it's kind of, we get to the door and I'm pulling him outside, he won't go. So, you know, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't go for a walk. Reading a book is something that's not, I generally do every single day, but, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I don't.
Sure.
And Clear Action This Day folder is there as an example, because that's part of my email. You'll see that little icon here. Again, if I don't do reply to my email in my action today, tonight, it isn't the end of the world. I can do it tomorrow morning. So these things are not in terms in my life, I don't consider to be core work. They're not high priorities.
Yes.
But up here, these things are. So for me, if I don't do my daily planning, it's the end of the world. Because that's such a vital part of my whole system. It also is what helps me to stay focused on what's important and to make sure that I'm doing the right things each day. So there's a big difference in terms of priority, if you like, between the recurring areas of focus and your routines.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Yep.
You're welcome. So if I just go back into my today's focus, I've got something that I wanted to show you. So I've said that task managers are not good project managers. And the one question I get asked all the time is, well, okay, if you're not managing your projects inside your task manager, where are you managing your projects? That's the key. So I use an application called Evernote. I'm sure most people have heard of Evernote. You can do this with OneNote as well, and I will show you how to do that in a moment. But first, let me just say, down here is a project task. So I've got continue building chapter list for Time and Life Mastery book. So I'm writing a book called Time and Life Mastery, and I'm really trying to sort out the chapter list. Now, you know, I don't want to see a chapter list in Todoist. Now, technically, if I go into this task, I could add a chapter list in here as a comment, but it's just not the right place to put that. So instead, I have a Evernote note that's now linked to this. So all I have to do is click on that. My Mac will ask me, do I want to open up Evernote? Yes, I do. And here's my master list. Now I can start working on it. I can just keep adding, you know, chapter ideas. So it's one click, or two clicks, because my Mac forces me to give permission to open up Evernote. But it's kind of two clicks and I'm right inside the project. No distractions. I'm not going to Evernote itself. This pulls up the actual note in the window that I'm in. And this is one of the reasons where I would manage my projects, not in Todoist. I manage them in Evernote. So now if I click on this, that's going to ask me to open up. Now you should be able to see Evernote's note.
I can see it. Yes.
So this is the actual project note. Now this is part of, if you look up here, this is actually part of a notebook called Time and Life Mastery book.
Carl, can you make it like full screen, please, if you don't mind?
This one?
Yep. Yep. Perfect.
So in here, you can still see that, I'm sure. So in here, you can see that down in the upper left-hand corner is part of an actual notebook, but it's the note that I'm actually interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So the note is the most important thing. I don't need to go into the actual project itself because the project is the notebook, but I don't need that. My task, if I just come back out of this, my task says continue building chapter list. So I don't need to go into that. I just need to go to that particular note. Now, that's one area where I can connect. Now, there's another one that I wanted to show you as well, which is I have a number of clients. So what I've got here is I keep my client data and lists in a Google Sheet. So if I click on this, and I will probably have to go to full screen when it opens, and open. Now, as you know, Google Docs is online, so this isn't as quick as using Evernote.
Sure.
But now this takes me directly to my, so this takes me to my client list. Now, this is obviously not my real clients. Basically, I can keep all the information related to my clients in a simple Google Doc. Now, you can add whatever fields you want. Now, each of my clients have their very own note in Evernote. So I have all the details of the calls, but this is like the master list. This tells me when what program they're using, their email address, when did it start, when is the due date to finish, and when did we last contact. And if I need to make some additional notes. So I had a client earlier this year, one of her parents died, and she asked if she could put the course, the program on hold. So I just made a little note. She wanted to put the program on hold for 6 months. So I just said, right, okay, this is on hold for 6 months. And then after 6 months, we restarted. So you can do whatever you want with a Google Doc, and it's just a brilliant way of managing a client list. And I'm not very big with spreadsheets. I just only know how to use the basic features. But for a lot of people out there, probably know a lot more than I do on how to use spreadsheets. So I'm sure they could just create some amazing things to manage clients. You could build your very own CRM system basically in a spreadsheet, which is far, far better than trying to manage this through a task list, because a task list manager isn't going to do it very well.
Yep.
And one more that I wanted to show you, because I've shown you Evernote and I've shown you Google Docs. There is another one that you can, I mentioned, I think in the beginning, that Microsoft OneNote is also very good at this. And here's an example that I created. Again, it's a clickable link, which will open up OneNote online. And again, it's a project note. And the thing I like about OneNote is the iPad integration. So I can put a diagram like I've done in here, and now I can actually add in lots of sketch notes. So if I was working on this particular project, again, I've got the task which says work on this project, or in this case, review this framework. Then it's just one click and I'm straight into it. Yep. And I can just get on and work on it. And this is where, like, there is one more that I wanted to show you, because the other thing that I've had people mention to me is about how do I manage all my projects using using like your Notes app. Well, again, I can go into I'm going to find it now. Where are we? I set this one up. Way down here. So let's just say I've got a current projects list, and I do. This is just a demo, but again, it will show you a rough idea of how I would manage my projects. So my projects are managed. This is the master projects list. So some of these are actually real, like the Time and Life Mastery course update. I got a due date. Where is it at the moment? So I'm planning at the moment. What needs to happen? So I'm going to do a complete re-record. I want to introduce a section on exercise and diet and a few other things that I want to do. So I've put the changes that I want to make to the course. And I've also, this is something, what would a successful outcome look like? This is to me very important because it reminds me of what the overall goal is. And like the Time and Life Mastery book, that's not due until next year. But again, it's like I need to get started writing, which actually I've done. So this is where I would manage my projects. And I would actually I would link this to the actual project notebook here. So I haven't done it in this case, but you can do that in Evernote. So there's a lot of things. There are a lot of better places than a task list manager. Todoist is great to manage your tasks, but it's not so good at managing your projects because you end up with a long list of projects, and that's where your tasks will go to die because they just disappear in a long multiple project folders and you can never find anything. This is a much simpler way because all I need to know is when am I going to do a task, and the only folder that really matters is this week because that's where I'm now. Everything else is not dated except routines, and I can just decide, oh, I want to do that next week. I can just drag it into next week's folder.
No, this was really nice.
Really how.
Yeah, this was great, Carl. And But I really like this concept of this week, this month, next week, because that really motivates you to do that work on that specific day or week or a month, right?
Mhm.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I think one of the problems, though, is that there's been a misunderstanding about David Allen's Getting Things Done book.
Yeah.
For some reason, people think that the task manager is where you manage your projects. Now, if you actually look at GTD book, it never ever says that.
Never.
GTD
Never.
book says you manage your projects in folders which are close by, like real folders, and you have project support materials inside those folders. And the project work is inside those folders. They're not inside your to-do list, but you do have, he does have a master projects list, but that's just for review. But there's no tasks inside that list.
Yeah.
And I think I actually, from the Getting Things Done website, I bought the setup guides for OmniFocus and Todoist. So over the years, I've bought two. And Evernote, actually, they've got setup guides. I think they're $10, and you can buy the setup guides, just a PDF file. But every single one of those, you set up folders based on, in GTD world, context, which is people, place, or thing. Yeah. So it's like, at home, at work, at the at computer, at phone, and then you've got people. So at boss, at colleague, whatever. Folder structure in a GTD task list manager. It's not projects. And I think somebody or somewhere along the line, things have got confused, and people have been trying to manage projects inside task list managers and then wonder why they feel stressed out and overwhelmed. It's because they're task managers, not project managers. And I think it's my big thing at the moment is to try and get people to really understand that concept, because when you do, it takes so much overwhelm away from you. And it means that your task manager is doing exactly what it's meant to do, manage your tasks, and your calendar is managing where you need to be doing what you need to be doing. And when you have that nice workflow, life is good.
No, thank you so much, Carl, for all your insights on sharing your Todoist workflow, and also talking about various different things, Evernote and OneNote, and how to do the project planning while using Todoist. And really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts?
Oh, you're welcome.
And then maybe we could wrap up.
No, I think I've covered everything. I've covered everything that I have on my list anyway.
Thank you so much. We'll connect soon.
Oh, you're welcome. Indeed, yes.
Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'm sure that these are helpful to you at some point of time. I will leave a few links to Carl's website as well as a few of his Todoist videos in the description section below. I'm also providing a link in the description for my content planning template that I normally use for creating videos or blogs. I'm sure it might be helpful to you. So before I check out, please do subscribe to my channel and leave your comments on this interview. See you next Thursday, and thanks for your time.